Good morning. Welcome to today's meeting on the Assembly Committee on Government Affairs for this 2025 legislative session. Will the Secretary please call the roll?
Assembly members Carter.
Present.
DeLong.
Present.
De Silva.
Here.
Edgeworth.
Present.
Flanagan. Gallant.
Here.
Golding.
Here.
Gurr.
Here.
Hunt.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Karras.
Here.
Kasama. Wynn.
Here.
Chair Considine.
And I am here. If you would please record Assemblymember Kasama present when they arrive. Welcome to the audience here in Carson City, those joining by video conference in Las Vegas, and those listening over the internet. I would like to begin with some housekeeping measures. First, please check and silence your electronic devices. If you wish to testify, please sign in at the table by the door and provide a business card to our committee secretary. When testifying, please turn on the microphone, clearly state your name and any affiliation for the record, and then turn the microphone off each time you are done speaking. If you are providing handouts, please ensure that hard copies are available for members of the public. Electronic copies should have been submitted to our committee manager by 9 a.m. yesterday for our committee members. And as always, we expect courtesy and respect in our interactions during the meeting, even if we disagree with someone else's position. And committee members will be using their laptops to view handouts and other documents. Please do not interpret this as a sign of disrespect or inattention. Today, we will hear two bills. We will begin with Senate Bill 343, which revises provisions relating to governmental administration, and then we will hear Senate Bill 72, which revises the charter of the City of Henderson. With that, let's get started. We will open the hearing for SB 343, and to present this measure, we have Senator Daly. Welcome to the Committee on Government Affairs on the Assembly side, and please go ahead when you're ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Skip Daly, representing State Senate District 13 in Northern Nevada. I see a lot of old faces, a lot of new faces, so glad to be here. First bill on the Assembly side for me today, or so far. I'm going to be back to this committee with several others, I'm pretty sure. So SB 343 was requested by the Sunset Subcommittee of the Legislative Commission. I was chair of the interim committee for the Sunset Subcommittee, and all motions and recommendations wanted to put up front contained in this bill were voted and passed unanimously by the Sunset Subcommittee. And then we report that to the Legislative Commission, and they authorize the bill draft. I know it's a lot of pages, but it's way more straightforward than, never say simple, way more straightforward than it might look. So I'm going to take it a little bit different out of order than I did on the other side because I had my own paperwork and confused myself. So I'm going to start first with the Range Land Resource Commission. I believe the section you can refer to is section 50. What they requested, we didn't sunset them, but we did make a change. They requested to have staggered terms of their board members to help them get a quorum and do a few things like that. So that's the recommendation on the Rangeland Resources Commission. The next thing that we did, if you want to look at that, was the Commission on Post-Secondary Education. What that revision did, we voted to continue the Commission on Post-Secondary Education, but they had some redundant language on background checks, where if they're just going to the Commission on Post-Secondary Education and they haven't had a background check in another area that they had to get to that point, then they would do the background check there. But if they'd previously gotten a background check, they were having to do it again. So we eliminated that redundancy in that section. And I believe that's section 42 where you can find some of that language. The next one, and the one that takes up, I think, the most pages in the bill, are changes to the state 4-H what do they call it? The state 4-H deal they have up at the lake, excuse me. So there's several sections, sections 1 to 5, 11 to 14, 20, 21, 44, and 45, that make the changes that some were requested, and one of them I'll spend a little bit of time on. So they had the old name that was in there. There was the Director of Agriculture. That name change is now changed to the Cooperative Extension. Section 6, subsection 6 or Section 6 of the bill relates to the purpose of the 4-H camp. These were requested changes from the 4-H group. Section 7 makes revisions to the 4-H camp board. Section 8 deletes provision that was requested again by the advisory committee for the 4-H group. And then the part that I asked for, which takes up some of the rest of the sections, is before, if the 4-H, which was given to the university by the state, so the university technically has control over it, University of Nevada, Reno, but then you have the 4-H advisory committee. So if they were going to change the use of that, the 4-H advisory committee would have to make a finding that it's no longer viable. They would have to recommend that to the Board of Regents, who could say, hey, look, we can make some money, we want to sell it. If you've ever been to it, it's right on shoreline, just south of the state line, or on our side of the state line. Then if the governor approved it, they could transfer it, sell it, lease it, whatever. So what we added in is that there has to be approval by the legislature in that mix, which is an important piece of it, because some of the people that came and testified said, hey, look, there are some issues, and we're concerned that somebody might make the findings that it's no longer viable as the 4-H deal, which was what came with the land grant. It's a valuable piece of property. I wanted to make sure so legislative oversight. So that's what that next section does. So there were 7 committees that we voted to terminate. I'll go over them quickly. I don't know if Teresa Benitez-Thompson is here yet. She said she was going to make it by, but if not, I'll answer the questions. She was only going to be able to make testimony in neutral anyway. So the first one we voted to terminate was the Advisory Committee on the Rights of Survivors of Sexual Assault. To be sure, and this is part of what Chief of Staff Benitez-Thompson would have been able to say, this work is still being done. It's being done in other areas under the Attorney General. This particular committee was instituted for the backlog of rape kits and tests. That work has been done. There was an allocation of money granted to perform those tests. That money's been spent. The work has been done. The committee really hasn't been meeting. There's other areas where sexual assault victims have representation or have coverage through the Attorney General's office. The next one was to terminate the Technological Crime Advisory Board. This was also under the Attorney General's office. This particular Technological Crime Advisory Board dates back to the early 2000s, I believe. A lot of that the language that was in there is outdated stuff. That technology and crime has evolved very quickly. All of that work is being done in several different areas in the Attorney General's office. This board hadn't really been meeting, and the language is outdated and defunct. But there is a robust program, I was assured, within the Attorney General's office that's still addressing all of the tech crimes that are going, and they're in a much better place in order to evolve with that more quickly. So that's really outdated. The next one is the commission to review the compensation of constitutional officers, district judges, and elected county officers. It also would have covered legislators, Supreme Court, et cetera. So before you get crazy about this one, we need to kill this board. We've tried 2 different times before that. This board was instituted in 1995. They did great work. I read their report. They made all the recommendations for every one of these levels of offices, and nothing happened. It's been 35 years since they met. When we went to call them in, nobody is appointed. They haven't met in 20 years. The judge's pay has been taken care of. I have a county pay bill I think will probably come to this committee on that. So many of the other areas and all this stuff has been done. The only one is the legislator one, and if you want to put in a bill, do it separate. I vowed to myself when we were looking at this in the 30-year study, we are not going to do another study on this. We need to stop this. If somebody wants to do it in the future, good luck. A lot of thorns on that issue. But this board hasn't met in 30 years. And there's our chief of staff. Good. So please, don't second guess this. Unanimous out of the committee. It's the third time the Sunset Subcommittee has recommended to terminate this. We need to get rid of it. And a lot of the issues have been covered. The next one is to terminate the council to establish academic standards for public schools. The testimony on this was this step in the process, this academic standards for public schools council rarely could meet, they couldn't get a quorum, and they were actually slowing down the Department of Education's ability to approve curriculum. So the council said, hey, we should get out of the way. The Department of Education said, this will be helpful for us getting curriculum actually approved. And there's another process, because they've been getting this stuff done even around this, but it has delayed curriculum being approved on this step. So we think this will streamline the process, actually. Terminate the forever chemical, I'm not going to try to say those chemicals, substance working group. That was put in by Assembly Member Watts. We talked with the firefighters, we talked with Assemblymember Watts. The work on that committee has been done. There are federal regulations that cover all of this that the state's required to follow. So their work has been done too, and they haven't met in several years as well. Voted to terminate the advisory board on automotive affairs. Essentially, they said that the advocacy groups, the board didn't meet very often. They weren't getting useful information. And the advocacy groups that cover that, the associations, were really doing the work and being more effective. So this board hadn't really been meeting or doing anything meaningful for some time either. The next one was to terminate the High-Speed Rail Authority. As you guys know, the Bright Line project is on its way. This authority job, they had potentially two. One was to help with the selection of that contractor on that. That work is done. Obviously, the work is going. The other thing theoretically that could have happened is if there were bonds issued in order to finance that, they would have had oversight over those bonds. There were no bonds issued by the High-Speed Rail Authority. They have no oversight over any of the financing because it's all done in a different way with the feds. I did talk with some of the building trades counterparts in Southern Nevada, and they said, nope, the work is done. We got people on the job. We're moving forward. And the High-Speed Rail Authority, they agreed, because we couldn't get anyone to come talk to us from that board either, because they haven't met in like 2 years. So those are the recommendations on the terminations. The 7, there were 3 that I went over that we recommended to make the changes in. And with that, I will answer any questions. And as I said, Chief of Staff Thompson, who's here now, can answer questions in neutral testimony.
Thank you very much, Senator, for that presentation. Committee members, do we have any questions? Okay, our first question is from Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Senator, for that presentation. It's kind of funny because when I was studying stuff, I was like, wow, there's a lot of boards and commissions, and do they really all do what they're supposed to do? But the reference to the 4-H program and the cooperative extension, just it usually references University of Nevada, Reno, and I thought there was some component where the University of Nevada, Las Vegas also had a stake in the cooperative extension work that we do across the state. But I didn't see any reference to UNLV, so just wondering if there is a partnership there and if there's any joint activity in the marketing and branding for those programs.
Thank you again, Skip Daly, for the record. The cooperative extension is housed under the University of Nevada in Reno. There is, and I don't want to speak for the university, I'm not an expert on it, but my understanding is there is a great deal of cooperation north and south. It's a statewide, the cooperative extension is statewide. So they do reach out on that. On the administration of the 4-H advisory part of that, the person, which was the director, what was the name in here? The Director of Agriculture, that name has been changed, and it's now the person that's the cooperative extension is the proper term. So it was just asking for a technical change to that. But none of the rest of it has changed. My understanding, and you'd probably have to reach out to someone from the university system, my understanding is cooperative extension works very well north and south, but it is housed in northern Nevada. And it's just a matter of timing, and one university is older than the other, and it's been around for a long time. But it is a statewide extension and provides information statewide.
All right, thank you. Okay. If you could please state your name and spell your name for the record.
Hi, my name is Lindsay Chichester. I'm the Nevada 4-H program leader. In reference to your question, it is a camp affiliated with the University of Nevada, Reno, but it is open to anybody in the whole state. So UNLV is welcome to send students, faculty, groups, anything like that. Excuse me. We also have a second 4-H camp in Alamo, so north of Vegas, and that one is utilized as well by anyone in the state.
Thank you. Can we get the spelling of your last name, please?
Yes, Chichester.
Thank you. Members, were there any other questions? Fantastic. Thank you so much for this bill. We will now move on to testimony. A testimony can be provided here in Carson City via video conference in Las Vegas or over the phone, and instructions on providing that testimony can be found on the agenda. And we will begin this morning with testimony in support of SB 343 here in Carson City. Would anyone like to testify in support of SB 343? Seeing no one approach here in Carson City, we'll go to Las Vegas. Good morning, Las Vegas. Is there anyone there wishing to testify in support of AB 343? Seeing no one approach, I will go to AVH. Is there anyone on the phone in support of SB 343?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. We have no callers for support of SB 343.
Thank you. Then we will move to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition of Senate Bill 343? Seeing no one moving, we'll go to Las Vegas. Anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to SB 343? Seeing no one moving down there, we will go back to AVH on the lines for opposition for SB 343.
The public line is open and working. We have no callers for opposition of Senate Bill 343.
Okay, we'll go to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral on SB 343? Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Good morning. Good morning. For the record, Teresa Benitez Thompson, Chief of Staff to Attorney General Ford. I just want to start off by saying the energy in here is just overwhelming. I mean, could you tone it down a little bit? It's like 8:15 in the morning. So here in neutral on Senate Bill 343, there's two different pieces of this bill that impact the Office of Attorney General, and we want to thank so much Chair Daley and the Sunset Committee for reaching out to us and working with the office on these bills. And what I really feel overall that this accomplishes is kind of tidying up and better organizing the activity and work that we do. None of the activity and work is going away. It just gives us the opportunity to reorganize it. So specific to the Advisory Committee on the Rights of Sexual Survivors of Sexual Assault. So that was established in AB 176 in the 2019 session. The Advisory Committee had two main objectives to it, both of which have been accomplished. First, to create a document explaining the rights of survivors pursuant to the Sexual Assault Survivors Bill of Rights and other relevant law. Then make a document available to medical providers, law enforcement officials, and prosecutors. Second, to distribute $150,000 in fiscal year 2019 and 2020 to award grants of money to organizations to train and recruit advocates for sexual assault victims. So the advisory committee set to work. However, the $150,000 was reverted back to the legislature during the 31st special session, Assembly Bill 3, Section 61. But the Office of Attorney General was able to identify other grant dollars that they could repurpose in order to ensure that this funding was intact and that the work could be accomplished by the advisory committee. So the work was accomplished. You can see the results of that work found in the September 1st, 2020 report to the Legislative Counsel Bureau. AB 176 was a training and trainers manual that was produced by the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic Violence and Sexual Assault, and the document Sexual Violence Advocacy produced by the Rape Crisis Center. That was also there. So now that the advisory committee has finished its work, the ongoing monitoring of the work is really better accomplished by consolidating those activities into the Committee on Domestic Violence in our Chapter 288. So the Committee on Domestic Violence over the past year has been looking at this. They met and voted to consolidate ongoing functions of the advisory committee into their statute and work, which is actually living in Assembly Bill 45, which is over in the Senate now. And that represents the consolidation to ensure that ongoing and monitoring work continues to be top of mind within the office. The Attorney General's Committee on Domestic Violence has membership. Almost 90% of the membership was in common between the Committee on Domestic Violence and the Advisory Committee on the Rights of Sexual Assault Survivors. So we made sure that we captured the right membership, also important work around SANE kits. So we believe that we've got a good fit here, and thank the Sunset Committee for initiating that conversation. That is Section 61 of the bill. When it comes to tech crimes and sunsetting the Tech Crime Advisory Board, so that's in a couple of different sections across the bill, 15, 17, 51, 19, 48, 49. So the Advisory Tech Crimes Board was first started under Frankie C. Del Papa's administration, her tenure as AG, and initially it was a multi-agency task force comprised of FBI, United States Secret Service, Metro, Department of Energy, the AG, U.S. Postal Service, Parole and Probation, also Clark County School District, Education. There were a lot of folks on there. And the Nevada Cyber Crimes Task Force really at that time was doing a lot of work because cyber crimes and how crimes were being committed on this in these new technical ways was very novel in the mid-1990s. No longer novel anymore, they're ubiquitous. These are just the way the majority of crimes are committed now. So this work is folded into everything that we do and really law enforcement does across the board now. So the Nevada Cyber Crimes Task Force no longer exists, and since then, Singular Task Force has evolved into more specific subject matter areas. For example, the Northern Nevada Child Exploitation Committee and Human Trafficking Task Force. So the advisory committee had really become defunct. They hadn't been able to get a quorum for quite a number of years. Activities were still happening, just not in that specific space, as well as the crimes, the conversations were happening. The committee members found that it was not as comfortable to talk about those crimes in a public setting as it could be in other settings. So we are sunsetting that committee, but the work continues on. I think really evident to that work within our office is we still have grants from the U.S. Department of Justice, Office of Violence Against Women, and local law enforcement that focus on cyber crimes. We have a new grant that was just stood up with Las Vegas Metro around cyber crimes. We have digital forensic analysis. So you go from where we were, the conversation with the Frankie C. Del Papa administration in the mid-1990s to where we are today, and we no longer need an advisory task force to guide us on how we do this. Everyone's fairly proficient in the work now. So thank you so much for hearing us out.
Thank you. And we will then move on to neutral in Las Vegas. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify neutral on SB 343? Seeing no one, AVH, is there anyone on the lines in neutral on SB 343?
Thank you, Chair. The public line is open and working. We have no callers for neutral at this time.
Thank you. Would the sponsor like to come forward for any final remarks? Would the sponsor like to come forward for any final remarks?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Skip Daly again, representing Senate District 13. And I'm hoping you got all the information that you need. A couple of your members were on our Sunset Subcommittee, so that's good. And we want to kill these 7. Thank you, and thank Chief of Staff Thompson, Benitez Thompson, for her detailed explanations, much better than I did. So.
Thank you, and we'll see you again soon, I'm sure. I will now close the hearing on SB 343, and we will open the hearing on Senate Bill 72. To present this measure, we have representatives from the City of Henderson, and please go ahead when you are ready.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Nicole Rourke representing the City of Henderson. Today I'm pleased to present SB 72, which is one of the city's 2 bills before the legislature this session. SB 72 modernizes certain sections of the city's charter, and as you may know, the City of Henderson is one of several cities in Nevada that has a charter committee. Our charter committee is statutorily required to meet in even years and is comprised of 13 members appointed by both the majority and the minority in the Nevada Senate and Assembly, and as well as members appointed by the Henderson City Council. The committee is tasked with meeting every even year to review the city charter and make recommendations to the City Council for changes. In 2024, the committee met 3 times and presented their recommendations to the council on July 2nd of 2024. There's a letter of support from Committee Chair James Martinez and Nellis for your reference. The council voted to include the committee's recommendations in one of the city's 2 bill drafts on August 20th, 2024. And as you may know, in November 2022, Michelle Romero was elected as the mayor of Henderson, leaving a vacancy in the Ward 1 seat. Under our existing charter, this required the vacancy in Ward 1 to be filled either by an appointment by the City Council within 60 days of the vacancy or a special election to be held within 90 days of the vacancy, and the council chose at that time to conduct a special election. Even though the vacancy was anticipated, the limitations of the charter made it difficult to conduct a special election within that 90-day time frame and required the election day to be on a Monday, which was April 3rd of 2023. Based on this experience, the Charter Committee recommended to amend the charter to make the 90-day period to conduct that special election sequential to the decision of whether to appoint a person or to fill the unexpired term. Section 1 authorizes the council to pass a resolution to conduct a special election within 60 days of the vacancy. The resolution would specify the date of the special election, which would be no later than 90 days after that resolution. This would give our city clerk and staffing the flexibility to work with the Clark County Elections Department and conduct the preliminary work should the council choose to conduct that special election. It would also allow the council to set the election date, and hopefully this time on a Tuesday. The bill also requires an appointment should the vacancy occur between the primary and 120 days after the general election. Our municipal elections are now concurrent with the statewide general election, and so trying to conduct a special in the middle of that time frame would be really nearly impossible. Section 2 of the bill slightly modifies the ordinance enactment process for the city charter. Currently, the City Council is required to send all ordinances to a separate committee, which is made up of the entire council, for discussion, and then back to the City Council itself for adoption. In practice, the City of Henderson has seen the committee process cause confusion among members of the public who are seeking to provide comment on a proposed ordinance. This is because the comment period is during the committee meeting, which is conducted just before the regular meeting. So you can see how this is sort of back and forth. So our goal here is to allow council to make the decision to conduct the ordinance process within the regular meeting. Still the same amount of public input, same transparency, and so just making sure that it's very clear on the timing and all of that. Making it optional would certainly, I think, help also make our meetings more efficient. Finally, Section 3 of this bill makes changes to the sale of real property in the city's charter. This issue arose as the city began working on the sale of a building known as the Dawson Building on the Nevada State University campus. The city has owned the building and 2 adjacent parcels on the campus since 2005, and we've been leasing it to NSU for a number of years. NSU approached the city about purchasing the property on a time payment basis, which the charter allows. Section 3, subsection 4 of this bill would remove a limitation that requires land that is sold on a time payment basis to be unimproved. So no buildings, no parking lots, no infrastructure. And the city also owns 70 properties where this also might apply. So this isn't just a one-time potential situation, but it's certainly our immediate need. The charter also includes a provision that the city may only sell the real property for the exact cost of the acquisition. And that means not a penny more, not a penny less. And that also doesn't contemplate any improvements that have been made to that property in time frame. So we have properties that go back to the 50s and 60s that were conveyed from the federal government for a very nominal fee at that time. And so we certainly know that this part of the charter goes back a number of years and doesn't really contemplate today's circumstances. So with that, Madam Chair, we're ready for questions. I do have staff in Las Vegas that are my subject matter experts, my city clerk, Louis Valdez, and our real property manager, Brian Podmenick.
Thank you for that presentation. Our first question is from Assemblymember Flanagan.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for the presentation. Just want to kind of put on the record, we've talked about this a little bit, but the reselling of the land and the fee, making sure that when you do it and you work with the nonprofits, a lot of them don't have a lot of money and resources. So just taking that into consideration of how the adjustment on land sale value affects organizations like that, if you could talk about it.
Sure. Nicole Rourke for the record. It's actually the purpose of the of Section 3 in the charter is that we can sell the property for a nominal consideration, and nominal is considered to be far less than fair market value. And so we're just trying to remove those provisions that actually kind of tie our hands. But so this is then also on top of the requirements for Chapter 268. So we're required to comply with all of that.
Okay, committee members, did we have any other questions? Great presentation.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you. We will now move on to testimony. Again, testimony can be provided here in Carson City via video conference in Las Vegas or over the phone, and further information on that testimony can be found on the agenda. We will begin with testimony in support of SB 72 here in person in Carson City. So please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair, Vice Chair, Committee. My name is Wesley Harper. I am the Director of Government Affairs for the City of North Las Vegas. City of North Las Vegas supports this bill. It is a good governance bill that strengthens the City of Henderson. Henderson and North Las Vegas cooperate and coordinate on a wide variety of things, and what strengthens the City of Henderson also strengthens the City of North Las Vegas. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Considine, members of the committee. My name is Kelly McNeil, Executive Director for the Nevada League of Cities. The League believes that SB 72 provisions will strengthen the City of Henderson's operations and promote efficient governance. For these reasons, the League of Cities supports SB 72. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair and members of the committee. Isaac Hardy, representing the Urban Consortium, which is made up of Reno, Sparks, Henderson, Las Vegas, and North Las Vegas. Ditto. Thanks.
Thank you. Seeing no one else here in Carson City, we'll move to Las Vegas in support of SB 72. Please go ahead when you're ready.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. For the record, my name is Ryan McInerney, spelled M-C-I-N-E-R-N-E-Y, and I'm here today on behalf of Nevada State University, and we are in full support of this bill. We further want to extend our thanks to the City of Henderson for their strong support of Nevada State over the last 20 years, as well as their ongoing coordination as it relates to the university's various infrastructure needs. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in Las Vegas wishing to testify in support of SB 72? Seeing no one, AVH, we will go to the phones if there's anyone on the lines in support of SB 72.
Thank you. The public line is open and working. We have no callers for support of SB 72.
Thank you. We will then move on to opposition. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in opposition to Senate Bill 72? Seeing no one, we'll move to Las Vegas. Is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to testify in opposition to the bill? Seeing no one in Las Vegas approaching the table, AVH, well, back to you if there's anyone on the line in opposition to SB 72.
Thank you. The public line is open and working. We have no callers for opposition of SB 72.
Thank you. We will then move on to neutral. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to testify in neutral? Seeing no one approach the table, we'll go to Las Vegas. Is there anyone wishing to testify in neutral on SB 72? And seeing no movement in Las Vegas, we're back to you, AVH, for neutral testimony on SB 72.
The public line is open and working. We have no callers for neutral at this time.
Thank you. Would the sponsor like to provide any final remarks?
Just a sincere thank you, Madam Chair, for hearing this bill this morning. Nicole Rourke, for the record. We appreciate the time of the committee and yourself in talking through this bill.
Thank you. And we will now close the hearing on Senate Bill 72, and then we will now move on to public comment. Public comment is not an opportunity to rehear testimony on a bill, and we ask that you please keep your public comment to topics under the jurisdiction of this committee. As a reminder, members of the public can provide public comment in person or telephonically and may submit public comment up to 24 hours after the meeting. Instructions for public comment can be found on the agenda. To provide public comment telephonically today, dial 888-475-4499. When prompted to provide the meeting ID, enter 825-6486-0069, and then press pound when prompted for a participant ID. Each person will have up to 2 minutes to provide testimony, and please remember to clearly state and spell your name for the record. Is there anyone here in Carson City wishing to provide public comment today? Seeing no one approach, is there anyone in Las Vegas wishing to provide public comment today? Seeing no one approach the table in Las Vegas, AVH, is there anyone on the phone lines?
The public line is open and working. We have no callers for public comment at this time.
Thank you. Well, our next meeting will be on Friday, April 25th at 8 a.m. in 4100, and that concludes our meeting today. The meeting is adjourned.